Hi, I'm odeean. Today I'm having a look at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Classics figures by Playmates. So 2012 is a kind of strange year for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because we have two concurrent toy lines. We have the cartoon-based smaller figures, and then we have these 7-inch Classics figures. So both series have a kind of embargo to my country, which is Australia. Any normal retail channel will not send these out of the US, as far as I know. Well, definitely not to Australia, and I don't understand that, and it really has been pissing me off. But I've got these despite that, and I just wanted to give you guys a look. So as you can see here, I've got doubles of each, and that should speak volumes as to how much I like these figures. You can see here's Donatello, and straight off the bat, he's got a bit of a wonky eye on him. He's looking off to one side. But as a quick note, the second release of these, which has just come out, seems to have fixed all these QC problems with the eye paint. So right across the board, my new set has good eyes. Okay, putting Donatello aside, just for the time being, let's have a look at what is happening with this box. So if you look up here, it's a very retro style box. This is really reminiscent of the old packages we used to get, and it's just a turtle bursting through a brick wall. All the boxes are the same, so it's pretty identical for this Michelangelo box, and the only different thing inside is the figure. Spinning it around to the back, let's have a little read. Inspired by the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle animated series from 1988, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are back like never before in collector quality figures featuring 34 points of articulation, signature weapons, and classic sewer cover bases. These perfect old school cartoon recreations will leave you screaming cowabunga. Down the bottom we have each of the turtles, so the boxes are really identical even on the back. Here's a look at those 34 points of articulation. Starting with the head is on a ball, although the movement from side to side is pretty limited. He can go the whole way around and enough up and down. You're not going to get any looking straight ahead while crawling poses out of it, but it's enough for some emoting. On the shoulders we've got up and down, as well as 360 around like that. There's a bicep swivel. We have a double jointed elbow, so you can go from straight out to, what's that, maybe 45 degrees, that angle. That's pretty good range. The wrist has a swivel. The thumb is on a swivel, and it can bend up and down. Each finger is also individually articulated to be able to close, as well as it has a little bit of travel in a rotation at this point, but it will pop out if you do it too much. At the chest area here, we have a slight degree of ab crunch, which also is free to rock from side to side. We have backwards and forwards and in and out at the hip. A swivel at the thigh, which is, out of all the joints, the most unnecessary, simply because I think it's kind of like a ball at the hip. You get more range of motion from the swivel at the hip, and it's much easier to do than this thigh swivel, so this is almost never used. The knees are double jointed, so again, that almost can bend right back on itself, and for a ninja it's really much better to have it than to not, and for my money puts it over anything else that's been available to date. At the ankle we have backwards and forwards like this, and a rotation, and the toes are individually articulated as well, up and down. That's about it for articulation. Each turtle has his signature colors. So from the cartoon, it's taken a lot of inspiration from the cartoon, and I know the turtles have appeared differently through different media, but in this iteration we're having coloured bandanas and the pads are all coloured as well. So on some of the previous versions of the toys, let's see if I can find one, like this 2000 series Transformer, what am I talking about? Turtle, you can see that they used to have leather coloured guards on the knees and just the coloured bandana, but it's moved to full colour to identify each turtle. And I think that part of the reason they've done that is that all of these body sculpts on the turtles are identical. So here we've got Leo and Raph, and you can see they are identical sculpting on the body. Now the heads have a different expression and different amount of teeth showing, but even the bandanas look pretty similar, like the eyebrow sculpt on these two, as far as I can tell, it looks identical to me. And well, it's not, because at the back we have different sculpting on the way the bow is tied. So, but the faces are pretty similar. Now, these two colours are almost identical as well. I can't really tell if they're just a little bit different because they're intended to be, or they're just a little bit different because it's impossible to ever get two batches of plastic to be the same, but they're so close as to be virtually the same. One of the turtles, however, is a tiny bit different. So if I grab Michelangelo here, and look at that awesome pose. Never before have I been able to get a pose like that out of a turtle's toy. But anyway, looking at Michelangelo, you can see his skin shade, he's the odd one out. He's a little bit darker. And just to prove the point, here's Donatello again. So you can see, again, Michelangelo a little bit darker than Donatello. Now, another really cool thing about Michelangelo is his weapons. So you can see that he has a real metal chain on his nunchucks. And as far as I know, that's another first for turtles, as well as silver paint being applied to each end of this orange plastic used on the handle. It is, however, a little bit awkward to get these guys to hold their weapons. So because of all this articulation on the hand, we don't really have a peg hole, and we have to rely on the hand's stiffness to be able to close around whatever it is we want him to hold. And so he can hold it, but also because the chain is a real chain, you're not going to get any swinging out poses like this. It's always going to be hanging down. So the best you could do is probably to get him to grasp it in maybe his other hand like this. They do have a tendency to pop out. Like, I've done a really good job there by putting the fingers equally spaced, but sometimes it can be a little loose and pop out, although that one seemed to grasp it pretty well right at this moment. Each of the belts that hold the weapons on are a separate molded piece, custom molded for the particular turtle's weapons in question. So you can see Michelangelo's has two little notches here and two here for each nunchuck, and at the front they can untab like this, and it seems like you could pull it off, but I don't want to try it because I don't know how this is bonded inside, but it looks like it's meant to be permanent. And while we're on the belt, got a nice big M for Michelangelo. Again, I think that's based off the cartoon. Let's take a look. I've lost the belt off my 90s version, so I can't remember what he had. Let's see. I have an in-box fighting gear. No big logo, no letter on these guys. So I think that the letters are cartoon-based again, not toy-based. So it's an interesting mix. We've got toy-based faces and cartoon-based gear. So they've gone for a kind of hybrid approach. Raphael has his two weapons on the front, Sai, and again, they actually are painted. A nice little bit of red detailing on his handle, colour matched to his signature bandana colour. Leo has this removable katana sheath on his back, the swords can withdraw from that. A little bit floppy, but much more rigid than some transformers I've got recently. So they've gone for a nice compromise between the amount of sponginess and the amount of rigidity in these swords. Maybe because they're aimed at collectors, they could get away with making the swords a little bit harder than otherwise would have had to have made them. Now, I don't like to pull this out too often because I feel like it's going to get looser and I won't be able to use it much anymore. Donatello's weapon is his classic bow staff, and again it's been painted, so I'm not sure, is that white plastic? I think it's white plastic with the wooden parts being painted, which makes a lot of sense considering that that's the bit he's going to hold, so he won't have to wear the paint off the white section. See if we can get Donatello to hold his bow staff. If I remember correctly, I think Donnie's hands are maybe the loosest out of the bunch here. He has a little bit of hard time grasping things. But, you know, these are display pieces. They're not really toys, as for me anyway, so being able to grab a hold of the weapon might not be as high a priority as the posability that I get from these. Speaking about being display pieces, we also get a stand for each turtle that looks like a New York City sewer grate with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles written on the front, and in paint the character's name to separate each base. And they just tab on into little ports at the bottom of the heels. And these are really necessary because with the amount of articulation these guys have, they can be just a little bit loose and a little bit off balance. So with these provided, you've got everything you need to pop them on a shelf and have them look really fantastic. So I'm just going to move my camera down a little bit. There. There's Donatello. Who's next? Michelangelo. Uh-oh. I just popped his foot out. There was a bit too much force on that one. That was pretty rough. No big deal, it just goes straight back in. Raphael. And last but not least, the leader of the gang, Leonardo. I love the way these guys look. They're really, really fantastic. I've been buying turtles for a long time now. From when I was in high school, I have been buying turtles. Somewhere around here, I've got the old original 4. I got way back. Must be like, feels like 1992 or something. I'm not sure where they are today, but I do have, as I briefly showed you a moment ago, a 1990s version of Raphael. So you can see he comes up to only about the shoulder on one of these guys, so much shorter. And if I get the old ruler out, you can see that the old turtles are about 12 centimeters tall. The new turtles are about 14 and a half centimeters tall, so much bigger. Here is a turtle from Fast Forward. He's a little bit taller. He's running at, wrong way. He's running at about 13 centimeters. It's getting up there. And finally, one of my least favorite, most hated crappy turtles, the computer animated movie turtles. So let's stand him up properly. They're almost the same. Look at that. I'm not going to bother to measure it because they both look to me to be pretty much the same. Just look at that face. My God, what were they thinking when they made that movie? That is That is a bad face. And I don't even like, they're kind of lanky, these turtles. The movie turtles are sort of, they aimed for too tall an appearance, I think. Turtles are meant to be short. That's one of their characteristics. Whereas these movie guys look like they've got human proportions, which it never sat well with me. I was really glad to see them go. I've seen a lot of reviews of turtles lately because I've been quite interested in these guys, and I've heard it mentioned a couple of times that this articulation that we get in the fingers and the ankle joints here is a first. I'd just like to point out that although most of the 90s figures like this were pretty limited in their articulation with no ankle joint and no fingers, not all of them were like that. So here is the Fighting Gear Raphael, and you can see that he has articulation on his fingers, and it's a little bit hard to show here. He also has ankle and toe articulation. So although it's relatively unique for this level of detail, Fighting Gear did have the hand and toes first, and these are some of the best figures for my money apart from the classics. So I would love to be able to show you one of these guys out of the pack, but I gave my second set to my son, and some little bastard at school stole them all from him. So I don't want to open this, but he had the same issues with being able to grasp things as the classics have. My final thoughts on classics turtles. These are my favourite turtles to date. I really love each and every one of them, and you might be asking yourself, can you get away with just buying one turtle? I mean, if you can live with yourself after buying one turtle, then go and do it. But I can't live with one turtle. I have to have the whole team. And they look better as a team. When I have 4 turtles together, I always feel much, much happier seeing them as a foursome. There's just something about them. It really brings back all the fiction for me. And I needed to have the whole lot. So I recommend that you go out and buy the whole lot. They're definitely worth it. As for price, don't buy them off eBay. If you buy them off eBay, I mean, you're going to pay more than $100, I think, for the whole set. There's no way. I think I paid about $75 shipped for all of these. But, you know, if you're a US citizen, you can look in Toys R Us. Maybe you'll be able to buy them $15 or $16 each, and that would be a pretty good deal. If I had any complaints about these guys at all, it would be that some of the faces aren't really appropriate. So they've gone for a really, like a big grimace on all of them, with their teeth showing and not happy. And even Michelangelo, who's normally the joker of the bunch, I mean, he's the least angry looking of these guys because he's not showing any teeth. But Michelangelo, he's supposed to be a happy-go-lucky guy. He should be laughing or smiling at least. So I just wish if I could change anything that Michelangelo's face would be a little bit happier. Other than that, these are perfect. I don't own the smaller figures from 2012, so I can't really do a direct comparison with those. But from what I see, I could like those, but I don't feel that I would like them as much. But until I get them in hand, I just guess I can never know that. So I recommend buying the turtles. This is Odeean. Thanks for watching my review of Classics Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.